and welcome back to KMN News. The Holy Roman Empire was established in Rome with the crowning of Otto I, the original Holy Roman Empire. In 800 CE, the empire thrived and expanded throughout Europe for hundreds of years until it began its decline in 1517. By the 16th century, its once influential vigor could not keep up with the new modern age arising from the late Middle Ages during the Renaissance, the period of new ideas that precipitated the transition to contemporary Europe.
The decline of the Holy Roman Empire took place over around 300 years, when it was finally dissolved in 1806 when Napoleon defeated the last Holy Roman Emperor, Francis II. There were several factors that led up to this finalizing moment, such as religious division, which degraded its primary infrastructure, a flawed system of deciding leadership, increasingly minimizing its power and influence around Europe, and the Peace of Westphalia, giving the imperial territories almost complete sovereignty, leaving the only true power source with the Archduke of Austria. However, though people had changed their religious sentiments, publicly adhering anything but Catholicism was a serious transgression that could result in detainment. It wasn't until 1555, when the Peace of Augsburg was signed by Charles V after he surrendered the Habsburg-Valois War with France, that it was illegal for German princes to choose their official religion, Catholicism or Lutheranism. The Peace of Westphalia came years later in 1648 and expanded the choice of state religion to Calvinism as well, but it had a more significant effect that we'll explain later. This relatively new push for religious liberty began to harm the national identity of the Holy Roman Empire and thus the unity of it.
One source of this religious disunity was the Protestant Reformation, a response to iniquities, illiterate priests fooling people into saying nonsensical hymns, and the selling of indulgences that was solely to gain profit from pious Catholics, and pluralism that were becoming common in Catholic churches. Some people were aware of these misconducts and sought a new source of piety. Martin Luther was their answer, as he created his own sect of Catholicism, Lutheranism, which appealed to most people as it provided more leeway in terms of how to attain salvation. Martin Luther, John Calvin, and John Knox were the pioneers of Protestantism during their own take on Catholicism that accommodated people's individual beliefs, but it had the ultimate consequence of luring more people away from Catholicism.
Charles V was elected, compensating for the lost territory that was necessary to give away in becoming emperor. He controlled both Spain and the Holy Roman Empire, which proved to be too overwhelming for one man. As a quick solution, he divided his land amongst his immediate kin. Philip II received Spain, and Ferdinand was given the Holy Roman Empire. Philip and Ferdinand's separate whereabouts and distinct ruling methods advanced the degradation of the unity that was once
the Holy Roman Empire.
Oh, God,
The Holy Roman Empire did not use hereditary dynastic ruling as empires usually did, making it uniquely but grossly inefficient. Instead, the next emperor was chosen by prince-electors, who were the rulers of the most powerful states in the empire. In order to gain this presumed superior position, the incoming emperor would have to pay for votes by granting these electors concessions to several territories, making it increasingly more area from the empire as each new emperor is elected.
After the skirmish, Germany was the primary battlefield, and thus it suffered substantial losses, but most notably its economy, as my Caucasian counterpart mentioned previously. The Peace of Westphalia gave almost complete sovereignty to imperial territories, and the Swiss Confederation and Northern Netherlands gained complete independence from the empire. At this point, the only true power source was from the Archduke of Austria. The Holy Roman Empire was in shambles, and it was only 150 years later that it was officially dissolved.
What brought about the Holy Roman Empire's destruction was the signing of the Peace of Westphalia in 1648. It was several peace treaties that recognized the futility of the recent series of wars fueled by the passionate piety and the intrinsic human want for universal conformity, ending the 30 Years' War with Spain's formal recognition of the Dutch Republic's independence. The result of the 30 Years' War skirmish was that it broke into 4 phases: the Bohemian, Dutch, Swedish, and French phase, with the destruction of Germany's economy. Their agriculture was demolished, and their people were left in deplorable conditions. So looking back on it all, the Reformation, a poor government structure, and the Peace of Westphalia were the main reasons for its decline. We can see how and why the once great political entity known as the Holy Roman Empire diminished into a fragment of its original girth. The Reformation influenced this, as Luther's ideas of Catholicism brought about other religions like Lutheranism and Calvinism, spreading disunity around the empire.
Secondly, the poor government structure of the Holy Roman Empire led to its downfall because it allowed for separation of the state in the Holy Roman Empire, making the power of a unified state fall apart. Lastly, the Peace of Westphalia divided the power of the emperor into the hands of 300 German princes. Because of these factors, the Holy Roman Empire, that was once a strongly unified state, became a shadow of what it once was.
Yeah, mate.